We there? We there? And we are live. Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. I'm your only host today. The master of hair is late on an appointment. He should be here in 20 minutes. Who knows? And then we have Mr. Dean Rogers, Captain America, and he is actually at Pace's office learning from him and Cody today. But we have one of my favorite guests of all time, Mr. Sam Singh. Real quick, for those of you guys who don't know, our entire goal with this podcast is to help take all the skills that we've learned over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years between the hosts and give them all to you and bring on guests where you can take something and implement it in your business immediately. And this will be real estate, you name it, raising money. Sam's done it all. And so the big thing for us that we want you guys to take away is that we are just regular people. I'm honestly an unemployable degenerate, and I buy real estate. But Sam, I'm going to start calling you the Indian sensation with that hair.
I
That's
dig it.
The Indian sensation, Mr. Sam Singh. Give us a quick intro, bro.
Dude, well, I mean, first and foremost, it's phenomenal to be here. I see you guys go live all the time, and the caliber of guests that you guys have on is phenomenal. So when you hit me up, I was like, holy shit. I don't know what I did to luck out to get the invitation, but whatever happened, I'm glad it happened. So, dude, thanks for allowing me to be here. I'm kind of bummed that we don't have Captain America with us today. I'm a little bit sad about that.
Captain
But
America, and he's on
yeah.
the road all the time lately. Like
Oh yeah, he's crushing, man. He's crushing life. But no, dude, it's an honor to be here. I think as quick of an intro as I can give to everyone here. So obviously, I invest in real estate. My big thing is that I'm absolutely phenomenally obsessed and in love with business. That's my big thing. I view everything, even purchasing real estate, even purchasing rentals, as a business. I don't even view it as real estate investing. I view it as having a real estate investment acquisition, sales and marketing machine. I've been in the industry for a little bit less than 3 years. So November 1st will actually be my 3-year mark in entrepreneurship, which is I'm super stoked on. I'm super freaking stoked on. And in that very short amount of time, I've been blessed because I've had amazing mentors, guys like Mindset Marlin, who is in the chat, who's one of my best friends of all time. I've had amazing friends and mentors like Marlin, like Stratton, who have basically helped cultivate me into a, honest to God, like a deal cranking machine. So in the 3 years that I've been doing this, I am officially very happy and stoked to say this publicly. This is actually the first time I've mentioned this publicly, bro, because this just happened recently. I am officially at 28 years old, a multi-millionaire, and I am super freaking stoked about that. And yeah, we're absolutely crushing. We're cranking. It's a blessing to be where we're at. And the beauty of all of this, man, I feel like we're just getting started. That's the best damn part, is I feel like we're still in our infancy and our baby steps, you know? So, but yeah, man, I'm stoked to be here with you guys. Absolutely.
Bro, I love it. Marlon, where are you at, bro? Let me know in the comments. Where are you in America right now? Just making your life an absolute living hell, running like
Dude,
that.
Marlon, oh my God. Every time I chat with Marlon and I have a podcast later today called Think Big. And every time we start it, our first question is, Marlon, where in America are you right now? Like, whose land are you illegally running across right now? And it's always something new. He's in a new state every day. But dude, love to see you. I can imagine he's probably running on the side of the road right now, tuning in, which is awesome.
Just running like this, looking down, trying not to get hit by cars. But bro, what was your childhood like? I don't know anything about your childhood. Like, what were you always an entrepreneur?
No. Oh God, no. So I just got into entrepreneurship about 2.5 years ago. So my childhood was, honest to God, a little bit rough. We were raised by a single mom who was an immigrant who raised us in the hood of California. And there's really not much around that other than the fact that a single mom raising 4 boys, doing whatever the hell she had to make ends meet. And she suffered, dude. She absolutely fucking suffered to give us an amazing level of opportunity here. And so it was really interesting, man. I grew up very much in a unique kind of perspective here in California, where there's not many people who looked like me. There's not many people who had the background that I did. And I grew up in a heavy minority community in the ghetto. And it was really kind of interesting because we came from extreme poverty, extreme hardship. And dude, I have to say it. I owe it all to my mom, who is tough as goddamn nails, to give me and my older brother and my younger brothers the opportunities that we have. And dude, if it wasn't for her being an absolute goddamn force of nature, you and I wouldn't have gone to the same college that we did. The fact that I went to that college, Fresno State University, was a complete was not up to me at all. It was very much a game of, my mom's like, hey, I'm suffering to give you guys this opportunity. There is no goddamn way you're not going to go to college and you're not going to be a success. But the interesting thing was this is real estate and entrepreneurship, to your point, it's never supposed to happen. It was never supposed to be a thing with me. Before this, I actually chased working in law enforcement. That was actually the thing. I went to college and got a degree in criminology with an emphasis in law enforcement. I did some work in politics. I did some work in law enforcement. That was supposed to be the thing. My entire career endeavor was to finish a career in the FBI. And
There we go.
yeah, and that was interesting. It was very interesting. And one thing that I've noticed coming into this industry, man, guys who come in from sports like you, guys who come in, and like Dean, guys who come in from the military or come in from a law enforcement type background, they all tend to do pretty well in entrepreneurship. This is a pattern that I've kind of noticed. And so, but me coming into law enforcement, or sorry, in entrepreneurship, complete accident that was partly because of COVID, partly because of shutdowns, partly because of law enforcement had this massive hiring freeze that everything just got shut down in the world, especially in California. And I decided, dude, maybe I want to actually do something with my life instead of getting shot at for a living. And that was kind of an interesting idea to me. And lo and behold, dude, we went to YouTube University. I came across the first financial entrepreneur kind of person on earth that I came across truly and I listened to was Graham Stephan. And
Okay.
then it was just a rabbit hole. And back then, Graham was all about real estate. He was all about real estate. Now he talks about everything, but back then he was very heavy on the real estate stuff.
Bro, real quick, my mom just commented on my Instagram. Hi, buddy. Hey, mom. I love you. Speaking of moms, my mom's the best. Bro, are you still really you're still really close with your brothers, right?
Huge. That's like
Do they live
literally.
with you?
Yeah. So me and my older brother Harry, we have a house together, and my two kid brothers are with us all the time.
Did you guys grow up out here in Fresno?
Yeah. We've been here for a long time. And here's the thing: I actually don't know how much longer we're gonna be here. I don't know where we're gonna go. But wherever we're gonna go, we're 100% going all together. Like the clan moves together. We've got that kind of
little brothers. How old are your little brothers?
16 and 14. So yeah, they're still under 18. They're still underage. And it's kind of cool, dude. It's actually really kind of fun getting into entrepreneurship and having a lot of people have kids, right? Like you've got a son. For me, I've got kid brothers, and who I basically kind of semi-raised, as you do when you're the older sibling in a single parent household. And so it's actually kind of amazing figuring it out as I go, because it's an amazing run of like, this is kind of what parenthood feels like in a unique little way. But it's so funny, man. I watch you guys on Instagram. I watch you and your son. You guys are always hanging out, always having the best time ever, watching anime. And it's funny because you guys are the only people that I relate to, because I'm like, I'm gonna go crank and like work my guts out for the business for 12 hours a day. And then it's like, let's go watch Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's go watch One Piece. And so I love seeing that with you guys.
I mean, we can't watch Jujutsu Kaisen with the 6-year-old just yet. A little bit too brutal, honestly. Just a little bit. But my little Bartholomew Kuma is out there rolling, and he's embraced the Kuma full-fledged. It's hilarious, bro. He's
dude, I love that. I saw that, and I was like, dude, I love that, because whenever I dare to post anything about anime, it's funny because it's received two ways by my following. One is there's like the three guys who are like, you're the best ever. We now resonate. We now love you. And like, we're committed to you because you share an interest. And then everything else is like, the hell are you doing watching anime? Because it's the funniest thing to me. And I'm so unapologetic with it. But I saw you guys post that. And it was funny because literally the night before we watched the episode with Bartholomew Kuma, just landed at the World Government base. So I'm super stoked on that. But
Yeah.
dude, absolutely, I love to see that. And what I'm talking about is this. I think growing up, there was a preconceived notion about what an entrepreneur needs to look like, what a business owner needs to look like. And you and I are both examples that, hell, in skin color alone, because where I was raised, we were taught that brown guys like us can't make it in entrepreneurship. We can't make it in business. Hell, you're brown and raised by a single mom in the hood in California, you're hella not going to make it. And the interesting thing is, as I come up, I'm like, that's the farthest thing from the truth. And then two, I find guys like you, Marlon, who also loves anime, which is funny. I'm like, I see this young generation of entrepreneurs, even Hermosi, who, who we all look up to. He's kind of nerdy. He's kind of nerdy at times. He kind of geeks out about some stuff. And I'm like, there is a reframing of what a successful entrepreneur can look like today. And I'm so stoked about it. It's awesome.
Well, I think that everybody was a nerd. Nobody wanted to admit it. But
Yeah.
everybody loves, especially dudes like me and Zeno went and saw the new Godzilla movie. Every child loves just monsters making noises and fighting. So I just think it's inherent to where all boys love kung fu movies. You know what I'm saying? And Star Wars, like if you say like, "Oh no, I don't watch Star Wars because it's dumb," I think you're lying to yourself, because every little boy loves swords, and then laser swords. It stacks on top of it.
That's it. It starts with swords. Like you gotta love Lord of the Rings, and if you love Lord of the Rings, you're gonna love Pirates of the Caribbean. If you love Pirates of the Caribbean, you just gotta turn those things into laser swords, and then you're in love with Star Wars. It just goes like that. Dude, it's so funny, man. I'm looking at the world around us, and as technology continues to evolve the way that it is, right? We've got AI just changing so many things, not just in our industry, but every industry. I'm looking at how entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, are pivoting, and that's causing so many changes and so many shifts. Like a millionaire right now does not look like what a millionaire looked like 30 years ago. And a millionaire before that, 30 years before that, was totally different. And it's so cool to see how everything is becoming more accepting and shifting and changing. And I'm so stoked, because guys like you, guys like Dean, guys like Jason, and people that I also look up to, guys like Pace Morby, Alex Hermosi, we're just seeing such a rapid shift in what it means to be a business owner and a millionaire and a multi-millionaire and a billionaire. I'm so damn stoked about it, man.
Bro, do you get thrown off by the fact that being a millionaire really isn't what it used to be? And how you're like, yeah, I'm a millionaire, but in all reality, if this was 30 years ago, like I'd still have a long way to go. Like I think about that with like Bill Gates becoming the world's youngest billionaire back when there was only like 8 of them. You know what I'm saying?
Think, yeah, it's become diluted, in my opinion, due to social media and posturing. And the Instagram, TikTok era, it has become that. That's why I think guys like you and me resonate. There's a lot of millionaires out there who are legitimately crushing, right? But they're crushing because they have algorithm hacked their way into just selling funnels. And then there's other guys who are like guys I view like you, a lot of people that I look up to, who legitimately love business. And they've become millionaires in a vacuum through sheer force of will and determination. And so I think sometimes you look at the word millionaire, and there's, in my opinion, people that respect them, love them. I don't necessarily put as much respect on it as much as I put into certain other people, where I'm like, that person, you could put them in a bedroom by themselves, and in enough time, through just sheer force of will and tactics, they will become a millionaire. They'll become a multi-millionaire. But to your point, it 100% it's so unique how available it is. And here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. I also think that there is no excuse right now in entrepreneurship not to be running a 7-figure business in a certain amount of years of doing it, because it's never been easier. And I would
agree with that.
Yeah. And I look at guys like you and me, and I would say by virtue of that, and by virtue of how much technology and innovation is happening and how much we understand so much, because we were so fortunate to come up with the internet the way that we have, is that we are allowed to innovate and pivot, and I think be a little bit more dynamic and light on our feet than maybe an old school entrepreneur, right? And because of that, we can unlock so much more leverage that can take us so much further than just 7 or even 8 figures. And that's what I'm excited about. And, you know, one thing that's really keen for me is understanding that because I understand it and because I come from the background that I do, I inherently, internally feel like I have a responsibility to achieve it. And if I don't, all that suffering that mom went through, I'm dishonoring it. So, bro, I think it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur.
I think now and right now, I think is one of the best times in real estate to buy things owner financed. Like, and I was talking about this for like our storage workshop, just because rates are so crazy, because the commercial investors get what you are going through when you're going to purchase something. And so they are for sure going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll carry a note, because they know that the debt doesn't work. And so like right now, like if you're in the real estate space and that's all you do, and you're looking to like start building your portfolio, I think now is a once in a lifetime opportunity over the next like probably like a year to just lock in some really good debt with these owner finance deals. That'll be easier than, let's say, in 2 years when rates come down a little bit and people can sell stuff on the market easier.
Dude, I love that you said that. I'm gonna go a little bit more into the weeds on that because I'm massively in love with creative financing as a whole. And in creative financing, we have like 2 large umbrellas. We've got sub 2, subject 2, which is taking over someone's existing financing, right? And then we've got owner financing or seller financing. And I've got to say, man, because of a recent rental kind of thing that we did, I'm in love with owner financing. I didn't get it until this year. And this is what happened, man. I've got this rental property, okay, in Vegas. That's like my main market to buy. And I've got this rental property. It's a hybrid. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, right? Small house, small freaking house. Hybrid. So we bought it half sub 2, half seller finance or owner finance. And we had a note on that, on the seller's equity, right? And we owed the dude like 115 grand still. We're making payments on it. We're making payments on it for the next 30 years, whatever. And seller reaches out to us and says, hey, I know you owe me 115 grand. I know you bought the property from me like a year ago. Any chance that we can get all that money up front right now? And I told him, hey, I would love to, but there's just no possible way. We've barely been cash flowing on it, right? Like we have a 30-year note for a reason. And then him and I start negotiating. And what ended up happening is this, because as anyone who's good in sales, you guys should know this, you never give your number first, right? You never give your number first because you never want to assume. And I thought, man, on the phone, I'm like, dude, we're going to settle for like 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand, 80 grand, something. This will be a good deal to do that, right? He hits me with, hey, Sam, if you wire me 10 grand tomorrow, I'll be good.
That's wild.
That's freaking wild, freaking insane. And so what ended up happening on that house, by the way, at that time, we still already had like 100 something grand of equity just baked in because we negotiated really well. And then within about a week of just handling the paperwork, we basically raised our equity by another 100K almost. And so now this 2-bedroom, 2-bath house that I bought a year ago has like $200,000 of equity just sitting in there that I didn't have before. And the only reason it was possible is because we had an owner finance note that we could negotiate. And dude, it's so funny how the universe works. A good friend of mine, someone I respect greatly, his name's Alex Quezada. He's out of Orlando. He's crushing, he crushes self-storage. And I've never heard anyone talk about this on social media. The week that we did this, I was like, oh my God, I just discovered something new. I thought I'm like going to come out, I'm going to call it the Sam Singh method. I'm going to brand it. I'm going to be the guy, right? Alex Quezada puts out a reel talking about how like every 6 months they have an SOP to go to every owner finance note they have and just say, hey, I closed a flip. I closed a wholesale. I owe you 150 grand. Would you be willing to settle for 50? And then now we revamped I'm actually in the process of looking at our entire pipeline. And I'm like, dude, where do we have notes that I can take over? I'm okay with, taking on a note that is a long-term, and even if it's not as great on the principal, right? Maybe I'm overpaying, but it's on an owner finance note. I'm okay with taking that on because I know now every 3 months, every 4 months, every 6 months, we can always go back and just have the conversation. So to your point, dude, I don't think people realize what's happening right now in the real estate industry. And another thing that you mentioned, I think people are too obsessed with single family homes right now. And I am starting to see that I was getting caught in that. And you and I have chatted about this. Dude, I think self-storage is going to be so critical the next year in terms of the opportunities.
Just bigger deals. Like, because like if you can just negotiate a bigger, better deal, if you know what you're doing as far as the operations part, you're gonna
Yeah.
take that like net worth number and jump it dramatically, right? But then, and then the other hard part I think with sub two stuff is your equity is always locked in for for like a very definitive amount of time, and
Yep.
that's the because like we have some wraps, and that makes it tough. To where I think, but even right now, now is the time to buy sub two, sell on a wrap, and charge a crazy interest rate because you can. But whenever we structure those deals and we look at them, the number thing we look at is opportunity cost because that money is essentially never coming back. And so we always want to look at a way to do a deal and get our money back with some type of down payment or just absolutely pay down whatever debt there is with the cash flow for a certain amount of time so we can get that money working again.
Oh, 100%. So I'm a huge advocate of so many creative finance strategies. The one reason I'm not touching wraps currently, it's something that I turned my nose to, it's literally just what you mentioned. And I think literally the two critical holy grails to me in entrepreneurship in any business, real estate, e-com, anything, leverage and opportunity costs. I'm glad you said that. Opportunity costs, right? What we're finding is you have to leave money in the deal. And that's the key, right? It's getting the money out. But regardless, you're absolutely right. I think that the reality is the more we can leverage owner finance notes, whether it's on the front end of acquisition or on the back end of disposition, you have such an amazing opportunity to get ahead right now. And to everyone who, I see John Herr, who's a huge, phenomenal friend of mine, John Herr and Josh Archer. Josh Archer's doing some stuff in self-storage as well. John Herr started his own fund and he's going after bigger asset classes as well. And then I actually did a time study. In the process of doing a time study, and we're finding out that for the time I put into it, we're just not getting the leverage that we need to hit the goals that I want to hit in net worth, in liquidity, in cash flow if I'm chasing small deals. And what's funny enough, man, I'm realizing small deals have way more headache. There's way more moving parts, way more competition, way more marketplace saturation, all these uniquely annoying things. And I look at all my friends who are just crushing in self-storage and they all seem so mellow and in multifamily. And they're all just like, yeah, working on a deal. And I'm like, and over here, it's like, dude, we have to like work our guts out to get like a property that cash flows $200 as a single family rental.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious, but I love that. So yeah, John says it, man, think big all day.
Think big all day. But then in like storage, if I do 2 to 3 storage deals a year, like that's a lot, honestly. And I mean, so shout out Alex, shout out Q, because Q is a killer. And I don't know how many like let's say deals he does a year because it really doesn't matter because you can dictate the size. But if you buy 300,000 like $300,000 300,000 square feet of storage in a year, you are an animal. Like for like every meaning of the word, like 300,000 square feet a year. My friend's been in the business for 10 years and he owns 1,000,000 square feet. Like just to put that into perspective for you, right? And so like
Wow.
300, one of ours is 20,000, the other one's 10,000. I'm looking at another one that's about 40,000 right now. And then we're still negotiating with this guy on a couple $100,000 square foot one. But it's like 2 deals. And then it's real cash flow is the thing I like. I think you can be chill because you have actual cash flow. I just got our end of month report for our facility in Nevada, and I'll tell you right now.
And you guys are using OPM for this stuff, right?
Yeah, we
Huge.
netted 42, 46, 50, and 15 cents. Our investors get $4.92 each, and then me and Kalani will make $1,600 each, and then we raise rent in June. I mean, but that was with like zero effort, essentially. Like it's 99% occupied. We'll raise all the rents again, $5 in June. To where that is really, really easy. But if you have a deal finding machine in the single family space, I think it works. It's just not. I think the great thing about real estate is you get to choose what you want your lifestyle to be. Like Harry Summers crushes it with single family homes, but it took him a very long time and it's a grind, bro. Single families are brutal, but you can still do it. Even if you had a fund, you can do it.
So true. So true. I look at guys, Pace was he was my earliest mentor in this industry. And I have a ton of mentors in this industry, but he was the earliest one, someone I look up to greatly. And I look at him and he's focusing a lot of his time on big deals and higher leverage. And I look at him, the reality is he's got a machine. He's got an absolute machine to find deals. And so I'm kind of fortunate in the perspective where I'm at right now. It's like we currently have across, these are all single family and some land stuff, which we're just lending on. We have like 45 to 50 deals in escrow across all the pipelines right now. And what I'm finding, it's funny, you were actually a pivotal shift for me in this moment almost a year ago. You were like, you DM me and you were like, dude, what the hell are you doing with all these properties? Like, are you wholesaling them? What are you doing? And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to buy everything I can. And you were like, bro, stop trying to buy in a million different places because logistically it's going to be a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah.
And guess who didn't listen to you? This guy. And so now I understand that it's a logistical nightmare. Now what we're doing is, because I've got the deal finding machine, we've got the pipeline running. It's just going to be a game of finding the operations logistics on the back end to make sure it's being managed the right way. And then I can spend all my time hopefully just giving you a ton of money so you can just go and like get self-storage with it. Like that's my goal, truly. Jason Pritchard, it's good to see you.
The master of hair. The master of hair is here.
Sam, I apologize, my friend, for being late. I don't want to screw up your guys' conversation, so I'm just going to slide right in and hopefully keep this thing going. Thank you very much for coming on the pod, man. I appreciate you.
Of course, man. It's so
master
good to see
of hair.
you.
Let's get the IG connected too.
Okay, yeah, I'll hook it up right now.
And you guys are, it's so funny. It was 2-3 weeks ago, the Deal Champ Summit in Fresno, California. That was such a phenomenal event. You guys crushed it. It was so cool. The venue was amazing. The venue was amazing. The setup was amazing. Your speakers were through the roof. I mean, like Nick Perry's amazing. Austin Rutherford is a friend. He's a good friend, and I love him as a human being. And you guys had my guy Rob Wensley out too. You guys absolutely crushed it. I love seeing what you guys are doing here in Central California. It's I've been waiting for, in the 3 years that I've been doing this, I've been waiting for like an empire to happen. And I'm like, who's going to take it? Who's going to take it? And at that event, I was watching you guys live and I was like, this is it. These are the Kings. And I'm stoked on it. So you guys crushed it. I can't wait for the next one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been good, dude. It's been interesting. Stratton and I and Dean were talking about this. It was like 7-8 years ago when we first started in events. And I know you've put some on too. It's like, you don't know what the response is going to be. I mean, we had 8 to 10 people in the room and it was like that for a year. And then the second year it was like 15, 20 people. And then the third year it's a little bit more. And then eventually it kind of grows and snowballs. So it was a very cool full circle moment. I saw you there, man. And it was great. Appreciate the support. And it was great to see how far our community's come, dude. Like our community has really turned out and it's just really good to see the support from everybody that showed
up.
And
I got to say this, man, I'm a huge Stratton and I talk about this. Stratton and I have obscenely long phone conversations sometimes. And I think it's because he loves talking to me on the phone. I think that's all it is. And one thing that we talk about is there's not enough guys who are truly willing to pay the hard dues up front. So you mentioned, doing the event, having 10 people show up. For a lot of guys, it doesn't hit their ego metric. It doesn't hit the vanity metric enough. And I'm kind of in the space where like I'm speaking on a lot of stages. Over the last year, I did about 30 stage events across the country. And this year, I'm probably going to finish here at like 50-ish. And it was so amazing because there's going to be rooms where you'll fly across the country to speak in front of 15 people. And then people don't realize that like those 15 people, by the way, will become your biggest diehard fans for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And this is something that I talked to, I was talking to Pace about this, is he's like, dude, if I didn't spend years talking to rooms of 15 people, I wouldn't have rooms of 3,000 people.
That's 100% right. Yeah.
And so I love seeing the compound effect because I think a lot of people may be thinking, they may have seen the Deal Champs brand, right? They may be looking at the Deal Champs Summit, which you guys are, I'm sure, planning moving forward. And they may think that, I hate the phrase overnight success. Freaking hate that. The reality is you guys are what, a 7-8 year. It took you 7 or 8 years to become an overnight success. That's a reality. That's right. Of it, right?
Yeah.
And so you guys, I'm stoked on it. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it moving forward because you have real momentum.
Yeah, dude. And it's cool. It's like you model guys like Pace because you got to bring the same energy with 12 people in the room that you do for 500 or 600 people, right?
I'd say that's the hardest part, bro.
And it is, dude.
And bring the juice no matter what.
No matter what, man.
It's so true. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but yeah, man, it's I've learned this from guys like him. I've learned this from a few other very charismatic speakers. Is I think this, at the end of the day, whenever you're doing the meet and greet, and like, guys, I've done it. I spoke at this event, it had like 200 people at it. It was amazing. And I wasn't ready for the meet and greet because you had 90, I counted 90, like 3 people wanted to meet me after. And I was there for 3 hours of meet and greet. And then I realized after you've spoken on the stage, bringing the energy after and just like this is the critical thing. If you can make everyone in that room when you're meeting them feel like they're the only person in that room, even though there's 2,000 people there, then you do something special. So truly hats off to you guys for willing to do that. And Strat, I mean, I was there, you and I were chatting a little bit, and I just kind of like laid low. So I just want to see how you handled, meeting certain people. And dude, I just love the fact that you made them truly, like, you were like, I have nowhere else to be. Like, and I think you were probably running late for something, and you're like, I am not going to move until this person like feels perfect. And so I got to watch that, and I was like, damn, I do not have the energy to do that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. That's right, dude. And it's building the muscle of, and I think our team on our side, me, Dean, and Strat are good at this. The 93 people, you've got to give the same energy to person 93 as you did for person 1, and even more, because that person waited for 90 plus
that person's
people
fucking
to go
committed,
through.
bro.
And so it's committed. Like, that's what I always say that, dude, at our events. I don't care how long I have to stay. I don't care how long it takes. I said, we're going to stay until they kick us out. And then we'll go keep the conversation going on the street corner if we have to, man, because it's that important to me that if somebody comes and gives up a portion of their day away from work, away from the family, like, we've really got to deliver, dude. You know what I mean? There's no not delivering in that situation. And I think that is the reason why our community shows up the way that it does for us, because they know, dude, we've just been bringing it for so long, man. So that was a cool culmination of all of that at that summit, dude, for sure.
And dude, honestly, just one thing, and we can move on from this, but like, I am so like, this is huge for me. I was talking to Stratton about this on the phone. As you guys are going to grow, right? As we all grow, you're going to get hit with so many opportunities in front of you that are just bigger and better rooms, bigger and more attention and all these things. And just continue to be the guys who just are willing to stay the extra 3 hours.
Yep.
Like, that is it. And it's funny because, we go to these events and speak on these stages, and I'm always like watching speakers. I'm like, who's the guy who flies in, speaks, and leaves 5 minutes later? Versus the guy who just shows up, stays, pours into every human being possible. And it's like, and that's tough, guys. Like, I was watching you guys and I was like, I wonder how their voices are doing. If you guys have lost your voice yet, like, you guys are like, are you dehydrated? Have you eaten? Yeah. Are you okay right now? And the fact is, you guys don't let up. So I love to see that. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm so curious. Where do you guys have like an end, not an end goal? Let's just say a year from now. What's the goal here for Deal Champs? Like, how big is this going to become?
That's a good question, Strat. I'll let you go first. Yeah.
One day at a time, son. We had a 2-hour conversation on Saturday about just what it would look like. I think I'd say it's the hardest thing to create a vision for, when I've never had 2 other partners. And so you need to create a vision that's good enough that satisfies all 3 people, and then has the biggest thing that we talk about is like, if you 1 + 1 + 1 should not equal 3. It should equal 9. And that should be the outcome if all 3 of you work together. Because like, you're giving up a lot of autonomy when you take on a partner. And I think is the big thing, right? And like, autonomy, lifestyle. And then me and Jason were talking, and it's like, if we do go big, it's not like to make $1 million a year. If we like, I'm trying to make $30 million a year. Like, this is the outcome that we're going for. And so you kind of have to balance what all of that looks like, and then trying to do the math. And then right now, if it breaks even and we get to keep throwing massive events for the Central Valley, and like, that's what it does, and it's a great brand play, I'm pretty okay with that, honestly. And it's Jason, and it honestly changes every day. I will say, I talk to Connie about it all the time.
For a very long time, bro. I mean, we talked about 7-8 year journey. I'd say 5-6 of those years, the plan was, let's just try to help as many people as possible. And Dean and Stratton asked me that on Saturday, like, what if this was bigger, what would that look like? And I said, impacting 1 million people. And so all the things that everybody wants, or that they think that they want when they're getting started, starts first with how many people you can impact. It's been proven to me, and I don't need any more proof that that's the way that it is. So I think the overarching thing for me, at least I'll speak for myself, is how do we figure out how to impact more people with what we're doing right now? And there's other, business and financial goals that kind of align with that come secondary. But I think when you lead with just trying to provide as much value to as many people as possible, I always think of speaking to the version of Jason that was 10 years ago, that was sitting in that crowd, that was in his corporate job, that hated his life, that was in the back of the room, that was too scared to introduce himself, and just trying to make that version of Jason feel comfortable enough to come talk to a guy like Sam or a Stratton or a me, you know what I mean? And let him know, like, listen, dude, we're all here to help you. We're here to be collaborative. Nothing but amazing things are going to happen when you do stuff like that, dude. And so it's like what those amazing things end up being. I'm open for it. I'm here for all of it, dude. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I know that that's how it works out.
And that's the thing, guys, is Stratton's been pouring into me as in my own tiny little space, how much I've been growing, and at the rate that I've been growing in the tiniest little way. Stratton's always been pouring into me and just asking, like, hey, what's gonna be next? And then we know, Stratton, you and I have talked about, here's all the opportunities in front of us. And the one consensus that we always come back to is, what's the thing that doesn't make us the most money right now, but what's the thing that takes us the farthest, the longest with as many people? Yeah. And that's the goal, right? And so I love seeing that, man. And I think, it's nothing against other leaders in the industry, because there's so many leaders in this industry. There's so many. But the reality is not as many as could be are leading with the right value proposition or the right core values, right? And honestly, personifying those core values is huge. You guys have guys like Pace and Jamil who are, honestly, they're just working their guts out, being across the country every 5 minutes to meet people, to hug on them and love them away from their family. And I look at this game, man, and I look how easy it is to become an influencer right now, more than ever before, and how easy it is to posture your business online more than ever before. And then I look at who are the guys who are willing to sacrifice the longest without taking from their audience, without taking from their following. And if they do take, are they going to deliver tenfold?
Yep.
Right. I think the guys who are obsessed with doing that are going to be the ones who absolutely redefine the industry. That's why I think guys like Alex Hormozy are just at the top of the game right now. It's because they just are obsessed with that metric.
Jason did it the best out of the three of us, honestly.
Yeah, Strat, you kind of suck, honestly. I was there. It was Jason.
Jason, well, out of me, Dean, and Jason by far held it off the longest, and then he kept his engagement up. Really, really good. But yeah, Jason by far crushed it the most as far as like delaying and then not doing anything and then putting out anything. And that I'd say that comes from, you have to be careful with who your mentors are. Because I got mentors who told me like immediately to start selling stuff.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, hey, do this. And then it honestly, number one, it was a distraction. Like you don't need to take that on, just focus on the main thing. And then if I didn't realize, like if you just put it off, eventually when you want to have the ask is going to be enormous and it'll be worth it. It'll help a ton of people and you'll have the bandwidth to do it because you stayed focused. But real quick with you, Sam, how did you grow your business to 7 figures within 3 years at such a young age? Because most people, I didn't grow to 7 figures in 3 years. Yeah. I, at least in real estate, I've done it in other companies, but I did in our wholesaling company.
Yeah, 100%. So right off the bat, I'm a guy who has to always pay homage to the mentors. So I was extremely lucky to get in the rooms on a sheer damn accident that I got into. The reality is every critical step of my life has been shaped by a critical mentor at that time who kind of took me, plucked me from where I was at and put me at an elevation. So I started with Pace. Pace was huge. He showed me how to not be distracted and understand my avatar at the time. And that was being a closer. Like that was it. I had a sales background, right? If you come from like law enforcement or the military and you usually those guys do really freaking well on the phone. And I was a guy who was doing really damn well on the phone. He was like, you should not be doing anything else but closing other people's deals. Like you shouldn't be following up. You shouldn't be cold calling. You shouldn't be underwriting. It took me guys like 4 months to learn how to comp. But I was closing deals because I was really just damn good at like, hey, homie, can you give me an MAO? And that's where I need to be at. Cool. To make 15 grand. Cool. Sweet. He gave me permission to live in a very focused role. And then this was huge. About 4 months in, I met just by sheer dumb luck, I ended up finding myself in a room with someone who's been a critical advisor for me and a big brother, and that's Robert Wensley. Robert Wensley doing Robert Wensley things, throwing a party in a penthouse with a bunch of gajillionaires, I just, for some reason, someone said, "Hey, Sam, come on, let's go and hang out there." That day, Robert took an interest in me for whatever damn reason. I have no idea why. And he decided, I'm just going to connect this kid with everyone on earth that he could ever need. And so I went from a point, to your point, Strat, I was in my first 4 months of real estate. This is like tactically what I was doing. This room that I'm in, you mentioned building a 7-figure business, right? And like how sometimes it's actually easier now than ever. I was in this room closing sellers, calling other people's leads basically for like pennies and like on an assignment fee, about 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Like it was brutal because I had no money, no experience, no nothing. Like I just knew that I sounded nice on the phone and I knew I could get people to like me. So I literally just went for the close 10 hours a day on everyone's hot leads. Spoiler, not a lot of them were hot. And then 4 months in, like on my 4th month, everything compounded. For the first 2 months, almost nothing happened. We had some contracts, they fell through. 4th month, it was like God looked down and smiled upon me. And it was the best thing ever. Through JVs and just through cranking it, we did my first 6-figure month, 4 months in. It was $121,250 in closed assignments. And that is when I went to Robert and I said, "Hey, dude, I just made a ton of money. No one in my family has made money like this before. What the hell do I do? Because I'm working my guts out. Because I'm working like 60 hours a week locked in this room and I hate life. And if this is what success looks like, is 60 hours a week of being in this room, like, bro, I don't want it. I don't want this." And then he pulled me to the side and he said, "Cool." He pulled out his phone, and a lot of people don't know this. That dude has data on everybody. It's like the weirdest thing. He's got data on every human being on earth. It's the funniest thing. And he had data on on a ton of mentorships. And he showed me, based on where you're at right now, this one specific mentor is going to be who you need to go talk to help you understand leverage. That's why I talked about leverage and opportunity costs earlier, is to me, the holy grails in business. And he literally in my 4th month plucked me and gave me a seat at the table with someone else who otherwise at the time would not have talked to me. And if I didn't have Pace Morby at the time saying my name on a stage, giving me credibility and a level of credence that I probably didn't deserve at the time, honestly. It was just him being a giver. I wouldn't have been in the room with Robert Wensley. If I wasn't in the room with Robert Wensley at the time, when I lucked my way into 121 grand in 30 days, he wouldn't have put me in a room with the next mentor. And so the big thing is this, man. That next mentor showed me how to hire, fire, train, retain talent at a really high level, structure systems and processes, all these kind of amazing things, and learn how to become an actual like CEO. And then ever since, the one thing that I take away is this: I am so quick, so unfathomably quick, I've realized, to spend money on masterminds. Like there's one thing that I have to say, dude. Most people in their first 3 years of doing this game, they don't spend very much money at all. They usually are gatekeeping, and they're guys who are 10 years in, they're quick to spend the money because they know to pay. I was really quick to spend because when I first started making money, guys, I had spent 25 years of my life not making money. So money coming in, it really didn't have like the profound effect that I thought it would. It's like, bro, I've went my entire life without money. So I know I'm going to be fine if I lose the money tomorrow. So let me just spend it and see what happens. Yeah. So in the last 3 years, Strat, to your point, I've spent $153,000 in mentorship and masterminding. And every step of the way. Have some of them been like complete crap? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's ones that have absolutely changed my life. And as I move forward, I'm like quick to find out and scope out who has the answers that I need, who has the scars from doing battle that I need to have the lesson without taking the scar. And so I'm huge on that right now.
Dude, so much to unpack there. I've got lots of questions. I feel like at the beginning, going back to the start of your story right now, Sam, you said a couple things that stuck out to me. One, you just had this like undeniable work ethic. Whatever I need to do, however many hours I need to work, we're just going to work. But what was even more intriguing to me, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, and a lot of the people that are watching this pod probably skew on the newer side, right? And there's such an intimidation factor coming up to anybody that's experienced. Pace, let's not even talk about a guy like Pace or Robert Wensley, who are just like upper echelon guys, like in our thing, right? Like even for me, like now, I mean, like at your stage, dude, like for you, a couple months in, brand new, to be able to figure out how to approach Pace and provide some value in the way where he gets you on stage, then puts you in a room with Robert Wensley. What was going through your head during those times? Like, how did you navigate that? And what advice would you give to that newer person that maybe wants to come approach you or Stratton or Dean or myself or whatever, right? And how do they overcome some of that imposter syndrome?
So I love it. Oh, dude, you're gonna open a can of worms with me. Love this. Okay, so two things. One, I'm gonna hit on this real quick, like tactically, and then also just one thing that I want to anyone who's new, who's having a hard time establishing the work ethic. Right. I think that the number one pitfall mentally that people have coming into entrepreneurship is no one tells you what to do. When you check in for work, when you go to school, guys, I have a master's degree, right? I have a master's degree. I'm used to showing up to school and having my teacher tell me what needs to be done by what date, by what time to pass. When you get into entrepreneurship, there is no boss, there's no manager, there's none of that shit. It's you in a room with a phone, and you have to create the curriculum, and no one's going to hold you accountable to it. And if you decide to F off a little bit and not do the work, no one's paying attention. So there is no, kind of a consequence. The reality is that Stratton knows this, and I'm a huge advocate of this with everybody because no one is this way anymore. And this is going to sound so funny. I think this is what stood out for me in Pace, what stood out for me in guys like Rob Wensley, what stood out for me in, people like Tiffany High. I am obscenely authentic and cheesy and genuine and nerdy and geeky. And I love it because I've met so many people in my life who are posturing to be something they're not. And what ends up happening is everyone can smell authenticity a mile away. And I've always understood that the people who are ahead of you, whether they're worth 100 million or 5 million or 1 million, usually the people ahead of you have emotional intelligence to a degree you probably don't. That's just generally the truth with successful people. And the people worth hundreds of millions, their emotional intelligence is through the roof. Like, forget their business operational capacity. Just understand that their ability to read human beings is obscene. And what I've always just known that. And so I always have known that the people in front of you can smell that you're fake a mile away. So if you're new, own the fact that you're new and you don't know anything, and own the fact that you're blessed to be in the room that you're in, and use that. Guys, the amount of times where, and I did this in the beginning and I regretted it immediately. I went into a room, I got around this guy who was high level, and I tried to pretend to be something I was not. And I realized it fell on deaf ears. He's like, I've heard this shit, whatever.
See it a mile away, dude. Yeah, that's such good advice.
You can see it a mile away. And then I got around a guy like Pace. My first conversation with Pace, literally, there was like a tragedy that had happened in my life, a near tragedy. And I literally was the most emotionally unraveled, cheesy idiot. And I basically almost cried on a Zoom in front of like 400 people. And guess what? To this day, something about that stood out to him. And at the time, I wasn't doing deals. I wasn't cranking it. I wasn't like a hot shot or anything like that. And he just loved the fact that I was okay with being vulnerable to him. And then here's what's funny. Guys, when I met Robert Wensley, he's going to kill me for saying this. I didn't know who he was. I actually had no idea who he was. I got invited to his penthouse. He was throwing a party. I wasn't on Investor Lift. I didn't even know about the thing. And I didn't know that this guy in front of me is like the next Zuckerberg of the industry, right? And I was like, oh, here's this nice looking, rich looking white guy. He seems nice. And the entire time, I'm just being authentically me. And I told him this. And I was like, bro, I don't know why the hell I'm here. I've never been in a penthouse like this. I've never been in Vegas like before that. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why you've decided to give me this room, but you've poured into me today, and I will never forget this moment. And this is critical. I think something about that, I saw it happen on his face because he'd been socializing. There's all these people trying to take from him and build relationships. I think I was the only person in the room who was just thankful to be in the room and didn't try to have a strategic plan, who didn't try to have, I'm going to go intentionally. We always tell people to be intentional. Sometimes you can just intentionally not want something from the person other than to show them gratitude. And then whatever, I think what happened after that is Rob was like, holy shit, he doesn't have an agenda. He doesn't have anything. There is no knife behind the back. There is no, oh, well, can we be an affiliate? Or can we do this? Can you give me a free investor lift? I told him openly, I was like, I don't really know much about your platform, but it sounds dope as shit. I'm going to look into it later. Just thank you for letting me be here. And then like that day, that night, he pulled me to the side and it was a bunch of like people who I know now. Guys, I had no idea who anyone was in the room. I know them all now. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys crushed, doing like 8 figures. I had no idea who they were at the time. I just thought they were normal people. And then he pulled me aside. He's like, this is the day that we met. He's like, dude, you're so like chill. Do you want to go to the Dominican Republic and hang out on a yacht for like 3 days? I'm like,
I love it.
what the fuck is happening? So I would say that, and just showing up as authentically as possible, because I'm sure you guys know this. You guys feel this way because you guys are genuine human beings. You guys probably reminisce a lot about the early days. You guys probably reminisce about being young and not knowing what you're doing, and actually looking back and be like, damn, I was an idiot back then, but I loved how lovable and authentic and genuine I was. And I'm glad that the people who poured into me did pour into me. And this is one thing that I found out, guys. This is something I've learned from Jamil, from Pace, from so many people, is when you're fake, the people who pour into you don't resonate with you. They're resonating with a side of you that doesn't actually exist. And when you're vulnerable and authentic, the people that pour into that human being, they're the ones who are going to care about you forever. So I found it to be the greatest filter of my life, because I basically, and it's funny, guys. I remember being an authentic, vulnerable, geeky, cheesy idiot who would like go into these high level rooms and start like name dropping Lord of the Rings, because that's like what I'm into. And then there are people who were like, ew, like they would kind of just have an ego to them, right? Funny enough, a year later, they're like, they reach out and ask to be on the podcast. They reach out and like, can you come and speak and do all these things? And of course we will. But I've found out that the people who resonate with you for life. And then to your point, I have to say this, you mentioned about work ethic. I've also realized a lot of people don't come into the industry with work ethic. I think I have somewhat of a bias because I was an athlete. I was a tennis player, because I was in law enforcement. I think there was just an element of just do the damn work. But this is key to me. And this is something that I love speaking about is Stratton and I were talking about this earlier. I was raised by a single mom in the hood. She raised 4 boys. She's tough as shit, toughest woman on earth. And basically for me to do anything less than succeed would be the greatest dishonor I could ever pay her. And I am so keenly aware and afraid of failing. I'm not afraid of failure to the point where it doesn't let me take action. I'm afraid of failure if I don't do enough. And it forces me to just, excuse the language, but fuck around and find out every chance.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people talk about the American dream, because I essentially would qualify as the American dream. Immigrant mom showed up, raised her kids in the ghetto, we're doing well. The reality is, and I hold everyone to this, I firmly believe we're in the greatest country on earth, and I'm not very apologetic about it. I believe that truthfully, the amount of people everyone has sacrificed for us to be here, whether it's parents, whether it's spouses, whether it's military members who have died, someone has sacrificed for us to be here. And for us, in my opinion, and I'm going to speak for me internally here, for me to become a success and stop at a suburban house with a 401k and a white picket fence is still a dishonor, because my mom didn't suffer for me to live a nice life. She suffered so I can make sure that other women like her don't suffer again. And dude, when you confront that shit every day, you can't be lazy. You can't not pick up the phone and dial. And so that's a little bit about it, man.
So you have a very mature perspective for somebody that your age, obviously just a lot of profound things that you're saying right now. And this is something that is always intriguing to me, right? Like, why do you think Sam Singh processes things that way? Is there something about what your mom instilled into you? Was there a life experience that had to happen? Because I think the disconnect for a lot of people is to come in, you have to work your face off, and that's it. I mean, there is no other way around this, because we always say this. It's like, if there was a shortcut, I just tell you guys, here's the shortcut, so you don't have to do all of the damn dirty work. But the dirty work is the prerequisite to a lot of the success you're going to see. And some people just have a hard time processing that. You have a really big why behind all of that. Was there something like interesting or unique that happened in your childhood that made you different or stand out? Is there something that people can learn from you and observe Sam and try to figure that out and how to apply that in their life? Because I think that's what's missing for a lot of people.
I would say this. Okay. Ooh, you said something key. I don't think you even realized it. You mentioned the word, the why. And I think we all have a why, right? Everyone has a why, and everyone's why. I'm a firm believer in this. 99% of people say they have a why, and they say they would move mountains for their why. And you know what's funny, Jason? They never fucking talk about their why. They hide from it. They say it once a year, and only if someone asks them for it, right? And so as a child, yeah, there was absolutely some stuff that happened that was huge for me. Number one, my mom worked her guts out. And because of how much she worked her guts out, we had to see her suffer. I had to see her be a shell of a human being at a time, because she had to work 16 hours a day to pay the bills, right? I had to see her put herself in dangerous positions to make sure that we could eat the next day. And so I was confronted, and I see this, guys. A lot of my best friends are people from other countries, and they come to America, and I feel like they've seen and have been confronted with hardship a little bit more than people in America who grow up. Not to say in any bad way, but sometimes they're not as confronted with hardship, and they're not visibly seeing it, right? And my mom didn't have a way of hiding the hardship, and she tried because she didn't want us to worry, but she couldn't. And so at a young age, I was very keenly aware that it was happening. And also a big thing for me is, and it's so funny that you mentioned that. I went a long time in my life until I got into college, and I had a local chief of police who was a mentor, instill this in me. And I used to hide from my why. People they ask you what's your why, and it's always this ethereal thing. And most people are going to say family, right? Your loved ones, your families. And that's always a prerequisite. But what more? For me, my why has always been two things. It's been because I was inspired by one of my childhood heroes, Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, one of my all-time favorite human beings on earth. I want to create one of the greatest animal sanctuaries the world has ever seen. That is something that goes down to the core of my bones from when I was a 5-year-old kid, right? I want to do that. And that's a big thing. And the other thing is the reason why I went into law enforcement is because I keenly aware at a very young age, I remember seeing 9/11 happen. I remember it happening because it was morning time. It was before school. And that was my first exposure to the fact that evil exists in the world. And I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. Because your parents, your son, Stratton, he understands evil, I'm sure, from an anime perspective. But the raw realities of human evil can be horrible. And that was my first time confronting it at a very young age. And that led to me wanting to get into counterterrorism, which led me to wanting to get into law enforcement. And then what I ended up finding is as I started progressing in that industry, I got to meet a very special demographic of human being, one who has suffered even more than my mom has. And again, so Jason, there's a theme of confronting suffering.
Yeah.
And that was victims of human trafficking. And that was a big thing for me. And so as soon as I started getting exposure to the reality of that and confronting it, face to face, seeing these people who have been through it, it became a core mission in my life and in my soul to be one of my absolute heroes, Tim Ballard, and help fight human trafficking. Now, I'll say this. In entrepreneurship, I became money oriented. I started chasing deals, and I started letting that be the focus. And then I sat with this mentor recently who was a local chief of police, and he and I just caught up and we had lunch. And then he asked me about where I'm at with my whys, because he remembered back then I would only talk about that because I was on a mission. Now I was just talking about money, revenue, driving the business, growing it. And he's like, Sam, 3 years ago, you talked only about those two other things. And then he hit me with something that crushed my soul in the moment. And I'm so glad he did it. And he said, so what's going on with, human trafficking and your animal sanctuary? And I'm like, well, I have to wait till I'm going to become a billionaire because I need the resources, right? See what I just did? I gave him bullshit. I gave him complete bullshit, and I'm putting it off. And then he stopped. And I remember clear as day, he stopped. And then he said, Sam, how many women have to suffer and die through human trafficking before you get your shit together and you help them? And he's like, are you really? He's like, how long is it going to take for you to become a billionaire? And I'm like, I don't know, like 20 years? I don't know. He's like, oh, cool. How many women are going to die? How many
Die in 20
animals are going to
years.
suffer
Jeez.
before you get it
Yeah.
together? And ever since he did that, I have been obsessed. And so, guys, I mean, I think the reality is this. I love optimism. I love optimism. I love having a can-do attitude. But I think there is a greater power that will allow you to move mountains if you confront the negative shit that you are responsible for fixing. Horribly tangential. I'm so sorry, guys.
You're good, bro.
I thought that was great, dude.
Yeah, that was gas. If you get a gas comment, that's always good. I love the fact, and this is taking it way back, bro. Getting in the really uncomfortable rooms is probably, from a business standpoint, the reason why you are so successful, because those rooms are terrible. If you're like, everybody says get into those uncomfortable rooms until you're in there and you feel like a piece of shit, you know, because like you just feel so small is the thing that you have to come to terms with, to where like you have to have that ego death and just like take all the criticism. Those are hard for me. Like those big rooms, being with Robert, being with Pace and all that other stuff is what's been really hard for me. And then, bro, I love your whys. I need to even think about mine more, because I remember back in college, my biggest why was like, hey, we're going to end poverty. I mean, that one's a tough one, right? But like we give money to Operation Underground Railroad and stuff like that. But I do need to revisit my whys and see, why are we actually doing this? Besides, I think family's a cop-out. I really do. Because like there's something intrinsic in you that you selfishly want to solve besides your family stuff, because I think the family stuff is just a given.
That's so true. And if I can give people three things, I believe this. There's going to be times in your life where you're going to be in rooms where you are in business and success, the lowest person in the room, right? And hell, if you're in a room where you're constantly at the top, you're probably in the goddamn wrong room, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the reality is this: you have three options, and I see people do three things. You get into the room that you don't, quote unquote, deserve to be in, and then you do one thing. Most people, 95% of people will do this. They will fake it till they make it. And the problem is you'll never make it. And if you make it, you'll make it with the wrong people, and then it's going to hurt you in the long run. So guess what? The guys who you want to be around, the guys who are worth their salt, the guys who actually can change your life, they can spot a fake a mile away and you won't get through the door with them. So 95% of people do it wrong. So option A, wrong. Option B, right, is you self-eject. And I feel like the rest of the 4% do that. They'll self-eject in their presence, in their energy. They'll either be just a fly on the wall, and then guess what ends up happening? You're not contributing to the room. You're not building relationships. You're not going to get re-invited back to the room very often. And then I see the 1% of people just own this simple thing. And that is, own the fact. There is a power to owning the fact that you may not deserve to be in that room. We always say it's like, if you're in a room, you deserve to be in it. I don't believe that. I think you can luck your way into shit you do not deserve to be there yet. But there is a tremendous power in owning it, going to the leader of the room and saying, hey, I have no idea why I'm here. I have no idea why this was okay. I just want you to know, whether I come back or not, this was a life-changing, eye-opening moment for me. And I thank you, like, from the bottom of my heart, for letting me see this. And then just leave it there. And what I found every time that I've done that, I've built a relationship. Every single time, with guys worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's so funny because it's antithetical to what everyone naturally wants to do. But you're right, dude. It's just getting in the rooms, getting into the mentors, into the masterminds with people above you, and just being a true value add to that room in energy. And if you can't be a value add to the room in money, in success, and net worth, and liquidity, and all this other vanity ego shit, you can 100% be a value add in energy.
Bro, 100%. I think the energy thing is hard. And then don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and then just be the fly on the wall, because you'd be amazed at the amount of people who are just going to come pick you up, is one thing that I have learned from putting myself in those really uncomfortable rooms. Because like odds are those people are going to be twice your age, or they could be your father or grandfather, and they'll still come and just pour into you if you're honest about what's going on. Because everybody goes through shit. Nobody who is 45 years old and successful has not been absolutely decimated in the business space and had to get through it and then learn these lessons. And so they will pour into you so you do not have to go through whatever they went through.
Dude, I see this. It's so critical. Human beings want resonance. Human beings crave resonance in stories in human beings. So the guy who's a billionaire actually remembers. I think the statistic is that there's more people who are first-time billionaires who don't come from a legacy family than there are billionaires from legacy families. So the vast majority of billionaires on earth were people who usually came from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
And they all remember what it was like to be 22, 20, never done their first deal before, scared out of their goddamn mind the first time they went to a conference. And if you can resonate with them and allow them to see a past version of themselves in you, it's huge. You in that moment, something special happens with connectivity.
What you just said is really important. And that's been my experience when I put myself in those rooms where I'm the small fish in a much bigger pond, and it's nerve-wracking. And you're like, damn, dude, I don't even know if I should even be in here. Everybody that I've connected with to a certain extent is always, I can always get the sense that they remember being me in that room. And I think as a person outside looking into real estate investing, it's easy to say, well, Sam and Stratton, these guys aren't going to help me. These guys are probably too big. And the exact opposite has actually been proven to be true to me. I think the most successful people are typically the ones that will sometimes go out of your way to come make you or whoever that small person is in that room feel more comfortable in that moment, to give them the opportunity to kind of open up and nurture and develop those relationships. And so authenticity was one of the biggest takeaways I've got from this conversation, is just be your true authentic self. And that doesn't change. I mean, honestly, like even now, 10 years in, the authentic version of Jason still has to show through in the rooms that we're going through, man. So I've even picked up a lot talking to you today, Sam, in this short time, dude. So I appreciate it, man. It's been pretty good.
Hell yeah, bro. Sam, do you have any final words for the people?
100%. I'm a firm believer that the 5-letter word that is the most important word on earth to me, it's honor. It's HONOR. People have sacrificed for everyone of us to be here today, right? For Stratton, shit happened in your guys' lives for you to have the mindset to give the way that you do. Bad shit happened and good shit happened. And the reality is, along the way, no matter what hardships came up to you, your family, anyone that contributed to you being here today, the reality is you didn't take the easy route and gatekeep. You didn't take the easy route and have a scarcity mindset. You guys have combated and honored the sacrifice. So my one play to everyone here is this: if you're struggling to get into business, remember the people who sacrificed for you, and it's impossible for you not to move a mountain. If you are growing your business, the key, in my opinion, is you are literally one mentor away from entering the next season. Honest to God. And for me, I see in Central California, it's you guys. And I would say Captain America, but he's not here right now. But it's you guys, right? And the reality is this: even if you've conquered the mountain, just honor the fact that all people poured into you. I look at guys who have conquered the damn mountain, who are at the top of the game, and these guys are the most genuine, the most authentic, because they know they wouldn't be where they're at if people didn't sacrifice for them. So if you guys keep doing that, God damn, set any goal: millionaire, multi-millionaire, 50 million, 100 million, a billion, whatever it is. If you lead with those things, it's done. It's done. But guys, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. Oh my God. Like I feel like a kid in a candy store right now. This is like a huge step up for me. And so I'm honored, truly honored to be here with you guys.
Hell yeah, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure we'll have a conversation next week for an hour.
Oh, 100%. Okay, awesome. I will go ahead and I'm going to hop off then. All right, guys. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Love you guys.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks, Sam.